So good morning. This is Simon with ToughTrader.com and Trade and Perform Coaching, doing the market preview for ES and NQ on March 14th. Quick disclaimer, we'll get this out of the way. Past performance is not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only. You can lose a lot of money trading futures. Make sure you have a risk management plan and the ability to actually have consistent P&L on a regular basis. If you're losing money consistently, my best suggestion is to stop paper trade, get consistent paper trading, and then roll into real money trading. At any rate, if you want to read the disclaimer, there it is. So we were ugly yesterday, right? Trend down, but we got just the opposite overnight. Let's kind of jump in and see what the charts look like. So first, I wanted to cover something really simple so that everyone knows in the room what what I am trying to accomplish in here. Okay. So the main goal, and I got an email, and so obviously I hadn't explained this very clearly. So the main goal is to trade out of the zone. So this is yesterday's chart with everything stripped except the zones. Okay. So I want to be basic here, 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 and here. And if you took this just on face value with a reasonable stop, i.e. a close behind the white zone, and you took the first touch of the top of the zone, the basic idea is that you took the zone and were able to achieve a counter rotation. The reason why that's important is because if you have nothing else to work with or your experience level isn't high enough to use anything else, I generally have very high confidence that if the zone is white or yellow, right, white or yellow, and it's a zone, that I think there will be a response out of that area. Only one zone failed completely without rotating to any type of profit, and that was actually my white zone at the volume point of control, and that's a rare failure, but it happens. While I'm working through the course of the day, I am adding, so someone asked what the algorithm was. So the algorithm, all it does, this is the algorithm from, I think this is going overnight, it was. All this is telling me as we're going through the, this is not overnight, but what this algorithm is telling me is where there's patterns of increased delta or decreased delta in particular patterns. So obviously I'm not going to hand out my algorithm, but basically what it's doing is telling me where sell pressure is increasing, right? So a good example of that is sell pressure is increasing through here. So see how buy pressure increases through here and is met with sell pressure, right? They're just kind of battling it out. But see how right at the low yesterday, they all pressed. There was no increasing buy pressure. It was all sell pressure. It was denoted by the red number 3s in there. And as soon as we get above them, big pop to the upside. If you'll notice yesterday morning when I was looking for shorts, right, we had sell pressure on top, but then we had a little bit of buy pressure by the way I measure it, right? Sell pressure on top that in very general sense created a support resistance area, right? And then this was the other area where we had buy pressure. And when we get behind the buy pressure, that's where the big move came to the downside. And then I'm looking to see where they get created both in patterns or groups of 3s, where I see multiple signals firing off. And then I'm looking like, for example, this clearly becomes a battle zone right here, the close above. And we were long for this yesterday, right? So the idea is if you'll look at this area where we finally cleared above, right? So this is clearly from, this is called 70.95 to 70.88, right? If we come back to that same area on the chart, that is, sorry, that was on NQ. So we'll just go look at the NQ chart to make this simple. So that was 70.95. Is that right? Did I just write that down right? 70.95 to 70.88. Oh, I'm still on ES. Apologies. Thank you. Here we go. 70.95. 70.88. So I'm creating a new little zone in here. If I can just operate my computer well. Okay. I get above that 70.95 to 70.88. And you'll notice that was already a key area, right, guys? We already published that zone the night before. This is confirming that this has become a key battleground. We've cleared above my sell pressure, right? Notice I'm not taking the trade off the low, right? I've gotten my battle going on. I've cleared above, and now we had this long, right? And we were able to then, from this location, get a rotation from essentially 70.95 all the way up to 71.35. That one trade right there, that is how the algo comes together to work hand in hand with the zones that are created the evening before. Okay. Let's get started on what we're looking for today. So first of all, overnight. Let's go over here. Let's get a chart going. As I wrote last night in the notes, it would not surprise me to see a mirror image move. Looks like they attempted to do that already, right? So the first question we're going to have for the day, that is your rotation down. I would have this written down very, very clearly. If we get behind and can hold above 71.49, okay, I would expect a push back up to the high. Okay, particularly on the second close above that 71.49. So that's very specific, right? So I want it to look like this. Okay. That's the 62 retrace. We push up, I would expect rejection there, but if we close on a 5-minute bar, okay, step one, close behind on a 62 range bar, write this from a 24-hour perspective, fail to close back below here. So now you have quite a range, right? This covers a big chunk of range, but we don't close underneath. Even if we dip underneath, particularly on that second close above, as long as on that second close above we don't get back below this line right here, I would expect a push to the upside. So I'm looking for it. But this is what ends. The close behind was really what would, for me, give a huge warning sign that we've ended on the 24-hour 62 retrace, right? And if you want to see how that looked, all we have to do is go to the overnight session. Right? And there's two ways of looking at this. First, we could use, so the smaller you get on the time frame, the harder this is to make work. But if you will look, let's pretend like this is the day session, right? So here's your first close behind the 62 retrace. Notice that it doesn't close underneath the prior aforementioned swing high to swing low 50 retrace. And then you get the second close above the 62. I covered this in depth with a coaching client last night. And then you get the squeeze to the upside. It doesn't work out like this every time, but this is essentially a micro model of what we're looking at, right? And so at any rate, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It doesn't always work out that way, but it does a great deal at the time. And the RR is great enough that it's worth keeping an eye on. Conversely, right, we've come all the way up. There is a problem. So you want to write this in your notes. If we close back behind 70.72 and fail to get back above 70.82, okay, so I'm giving you the model exactly. If we close behind 70.72 and fail to get back above 70.82, I would look for a push and a retest of Globex low or lower. Additionally, right, it's not just the first close, but it's the second close that I want to be keenly aware of. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I did it the other way around. It's not the first close behind that would concern me. That would put my head up on a swivel. I'm looking for this not to get back over here. Would already be thinking somewhat bearish thoughts here. But that's if it does get back up and it closes a second time behind here, right? I am probably going to try to press for a test down into the low. Can't be any clearer than that. On both sides of the formula, that's your big picture, right? So there's no zones involved in that. That's just pure price action and price structure put together to give us clues as to who's dominating what side. I really would not be surprised today if we ended up with a mirror image move all the way back up, mostly because I can't have anyone tell me. So I understand that technicals front run fundamentals, but all I see here, all I see on this chart, when I look at this chart, I'm going to drag this over. before I get overly uber bearish. Okay, so this is ES, right? So when I look at ES, I take a step back so I don't lose the forest for the trees, right? Nothing happened, right? That wasn't a horrendous down day on a day time frame. Here's our low, new high, higher low, higher high, higher high. Now, does that mean we can't go down? No, absolutely not. Could this end up being a top? Sure. But there's nothing on here. We haven't even broken our last little swing low over here to the left, over at 2,700. It just wasn't an ugly day for ES. That's all there is to it. If we look at that same picture on NQ, and again, this is important because I find a lot of guys, when they're trading, they really get emotional about which way they think the market's going to run. Okay. So, yes, was this a big down day? It was, but let's bring it into perspective. Okay. Where's the bearishness? Here's your breakout point. Breakout points tend to get tested, right? That would bring a backside test of somewhere between the true swing high and the last swing high that we had, right? And if you look back to the left, to the right over here, and we scoot that out, notice how relaxed I am this morning. We've backside tested the breakout is what we've done. Unless we get below 70.33, there's no damage. It was a one-day sell-off after, right, pretty much moving up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row. And the majority of those were 1% moves up, right? So it's not surprising to find someone taking profits here. But has anything bad happened? No, nothing bad has happened. We've tested into support, right? We have filled in most of the holes. We have one little piece left to re-auction right here. This chart is repaired, meaning the breakout day is repaired at 70.45, which I believe they took out during the Globex session. Let me remind myself of what Globex low was. 70. Wow. Huh. 70.4250. And what do I say in the room every day? Once we complete the last anomaly in the profile, the auction is free to reverse and push back up. And that's exactly what happened last night. I would expect a retest the Globex low to set up a potential exact same short. And if you look at that 70.45, no matter how you look at that process, right? If we come back to that 70.45, it's important, particularly for my guys that I'm coaching one-on-one, that you recognize this, right? If we erase all these lines, and we focus on the 70.45, same applies to ES. So the pattern plays out, right? And if you recognize what's going on, you're like, oh, I see what's happening, right? So look at this. Here's 70.45, for close enough for hand grenades, right? What do I always say I want to see? A test above, a test below, a close back in, location repaired, and we can then leave. What's the second trigger? Well, there's two. Here's Globex high to that point, clearly closed above. And then from this rotation down to where we established a new low, right? So from here to here, right? Behind the 62 retrace. Failure to close behind the old 50 retrace from high to low. Second close behind the 62 retrace. Lift and launch. Same fundamentals that apply during the day session to all time frames apply on this pattern. So what am I looking for today? Two things. Let's go back to the chart. So we'll do NQ and then we'll do ES. I realize I'm going to run over a couple of minutes, but I'm just not in a rush this morning. Okay. So areas to look for. We are currently trading at 71.27. There's a massive hole I put in the notes going from here all the way up to 71.39 to 71.86. So two things about that. This area will be very easy for the market to move through in a rather fluid motion, meaning fast, wide rotations, right? I expect a pause right in here and potential reversal location from 71.57 to 62. Again, same pattern. If I trade above, below, reject, I get above, but then I get back below again, I will look for a push back towards 71.29. The auction is complete up here, so this is very important. 71.9750. If we get above, and then we trade, if we get above 71.9750, established, meaning the bar closes above, and then we get back below 71.92, I would assume the auction is complete, and that we're going to attempt to either push back towards 71.39 or 71.29. The flip side of that story, we're opening inside of value. Okay, so what do I expect inside value? Is I expect the price action, because we're inside value, to do this, right? Not this, not this, this. We chop all the way through here in probably a pretty wide range, right? Why? Because the area has already been explored. There's nothing specific to come and attack. The market either has to try to get below value area low to come back, repair areas that have not been checked up upon during the regular trading session lower, or it needs to get above value area high, 71.39, and repair this area right here. Either way, there's no consensus. The clear resistance in here, there's two potential points, which we're already above. We're trading right into 71.04, right into this gap in the profile. But the more logical resistance area is 71.25 to 71.30 in a large fat area. I would expect rejection there the first time in. Is that Globex high? Probably should be approximately Globex high. Let's see. 71.2150, just shy of the TPO point of control and the volume point of control. So keep in mind, if we get to 71.2150, it's very likely that someone's going to try and push that to 71.30 and check up on those areas, right? Number one. Number two, we're not bearish, just like yesterday, unless we get underneath value area low. So I'm just connecting, right? We got to get underneath the value area low, led to a long liquidation. If we don't get underneath value area low, just expect balance and chop, right? And then if we get above value area, we'll start repairing this area above, right? So I'm going to look for scalping inside the blue areas and directional moves below and above. And then also these also set up areas for potential traps back into range. And that'll be determined by how much time we spend here prior to getting above or below. Okay, so specific levels are already outlined on the chart, and then I'll use the algo to fire off to help me get specific trade location through the day. So I don't have to know that ahead of time. The algos and the trade locations will tell me as we get there. On ES. Oh, and I would look for 30-point rotations on for entries. If I'm a conservative trader, a minimum of a 30-point rotation before I entered on NQ. ES 10 points. Let's see where I have. Here we go. So as we zoom out, realizing that there's really no damage yet here, we're trading 27.80, right? So where did this was the last little hole. This was the chart was repaired right here at 27.59.75, right? So we are open, by the way, plus 23 on NQ, plus 8.5. Cover this in just a second. So again, I expect this to be my first test and probably rejection out of this area. This should act as a magnet. I think we should be able to get up to 27.84, 27.86 if we can't. It's a sign of weakness. In order to be bearish, I have to get below 27.67. Chart is repaired once we trade down to 27.59. Area is lower, so this is important. This is the top of an open window at 27.56. There's an untested TPO point of control, but we came close to testing. This may work, but I would generally consider it weak. I need evidence. The problem is if we get below 27.56, 27.59, and we don't quickly recover back above, the most logical point on this chart to go to is all the way down here at 27.33. And it's reachable. That's within 50 points, which given our recent range of the past couple of weeks, it's achievable. There's a couple things that's standing in the way of that. So there's Dalton's gap fill, which would be right here at 27.46. And there's the settle price gap fill at 27.43. I would expect an attempted response back up. And there's a modified half gap right in here. And my guess would be when we get to that modified half gap, we get a response because it's a very common place for day traders to look to push back up. And that would be 27.51. So all these areas, this is from 27.67 down to 27.43, this represents my first stage this represents my first stage of high odds potential reversals, and I will be very inclined to take a long out of this area if we get in here for my long side trades. On the upside, looking at yesterday's chart, first location for exhaustion, if we can get back past the point of control, and then the auction is complete at 28.01 1/4, and I would look for a big contra swing back over. It's important if we get to 28.01, we must establish back below 27.98 1/4 in order to make that trade work. But once we're below 27.98 1/4, highly likely that we come back and test up on the point of control or value area high. I don't have anything else other than add today. Let me see if I have any questions from the room. Yeah, it is rare. That's why I expect it to chop back and forth, Ron. I don't expect it to go. Ron was pointing out that it's rare that we open inside value and in range, which would lead me to believe that we're just balancing. Like when you look at this big picture, look at this big picture. Like nothing's happened here, right? This looks like it's just establishing a wide balance range on top. It doesn't look bearish to me. That's why I thought we could have a mirror image move back up, but I'm certainly not bearish in here. It looks okay. It looks like it was just one day of profit taking after 7 days up. I'm not going to get bearish. So we stopped one time to the upside on the day time frame, so I would look for a change in character. But my guess is the change in character is going to be a consolidation. It just doesn't matter what the market. It doesn't matter what they've done in the market. We've constantly come back. I can see this looks like a child drawing on this. We've constantly come back no matter what we do on NQ. We've constantly come back. So I don't know if yesterday was because of the Qualcomm Broadcom deal, but I know when we broke down, we had to get out of this top consolidation. See how the market, even before we broke down here, I'm pointing right here, right? We went through a consolidation phase. And prior to breaking here, right, what really set us off? Well, if you look, this was our last swing before the next break, right over. Why is this computer acting weird? Right, that 68.77, that was really the key to getting the flush, right? Well, we're going to use that same model, we really want to break a 70.30 before we even kind of get inclined to, wow, we could move down big. It's just not bearish to me. So I'm looking for longs out of rotations down. And that's my 2 cents. So at any rate, let's see what the market looks like here now that we've opened up, right? We'll get rid of some of this stuff. Get rid of this. Hey, Russell, by the way, that was the first bad day I've had on Russell zones yesterday. Just be aware of that. I did bust. We busted another zone right here, so that's not cool on what's going on there, but that's been very reliable as of late, right? We've obviously rejected right out of the yellow zone on NQ, and we couldn't hit it in ES, right? So we're coming down into support in ES. Value area lows, the first thing. I left this area empty on purpose because it's very poorly auctioned, right? Again, I'm not bearish or bullish. Not surprising to see people push underneath. So what's my first warning sign that there's an issue? A close above the first 5-minute high, right, should give bears a point of caution, right? See how we're coming right down to the yellow zone on ES, responsive buy. Again, I'm burning the first half hour, so it can do whatever it wants here, right? We're coming into gap fill on NQ. And again, what I would expect us to do is whip back and forth in here, not drive one particular direction or another. The tick obviously opened very strong. That's a little optimistic. We're not gapping. Yes, I'm going with trade stations, whatever they mark off. But isn't it right? Yeah, you're right. I have 82.75, Ron. At any rate, it makes sense that we came down and tested. That's a little optimistic. That's not a gap, clearly not a gap out of range. It's a gap into range, right? And I would expect them to auction through that area to start the day off, and then we'll see where they take it from there. I'm looking for fat rotations down. I'm looking for the chart to get repaired here, and I expected rejection out of that yellow zone, which is what we got, and I expect responsive buyers here on ES, which is what we got to the left. So somewhere through the course of the day, we should get set up very nicely. Again, just to reiterate really quickly, if you can't find a rhythm in the market, right, things have changed dramatically in the past couple of months. We've gone from a market that reliably did this. We'd open up, we push down, and then we do this all day long, right? That is about as easy as it gets, okay? We've now changed to the old style of trading where ES does this, then it does this, then it does this, and this, right? And you get wide ranging two-sided markets. It requires a higher skill level to capture the profits off of this. This was easy. This is pretty hard because what your psychology wants things to repeat and be steady. And this appears unsteady to most people. This is normal to me. This is what I grew up with when I was trading. This is what you grew up with if you started trading in the last 5 years, really. It's pretty much been some variation on this and a push back up. So things have changed, right? And you're going to have to learn how to adjust and read the intraday charts, right? So there is no zero tick trade because we're not gapping out of range, right? And so I'm just going to let them whip it through here until I figure out who's in control. And then once I get a particular edge, which I'll go back to the algo, which will help me out with that. And I'll start pointing out where there's trades. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. I don't know what we're going to do today, but a mirror image move up would not surprise me at all. We're not in danger. It's not bearish unless we get below Tuesday's low. And even then, there's a piece of the chart to repair on both of these, just below Tuesday's low. I'm looking for a trap back into Tuesday's low and a push back up if we can get down there. So not panicked. Anyways, that's the presentation for this morning. Trade well, trade smart. If you'd like to visit us in the room, shoot me an email, tradertough@gmail.com. I'll extend you a 5-day pass. And let's go make some money, guys. Have a great day. I'll be in the room in just a second.